Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, August 20th, 2026 meeting of the Active Transportation Commission. The meeting is now called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, please unmute. Commissioner Hodel.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Vice Chair Gibson.
Here.
Commissioner Wadhwani is absent. Commissioner Rishio Patel is absent. Commissioner Hop.
Here.
Commissioner Tao is absent. Commissioner Rubenstein.
Here.
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Amen is absent. Commissioner Banks.
Here.
And Chair Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. New script, folks, listen up. I'd like to remind members of the public in attendance, speaker slips are to be submitted digitally. You can register to speak by scanning the QR codes posted at the back of the chambers or through the kiosks. Submissions must be received prior to the item being called, after which you will have no further digital slips will be accepted. You'll have 2 minutes to speak once you're called on. We're going to proceed with today's agenda, but first I'd like to ask if there's any volunteers for the land acknowledgement or the Pledge of Allegiance, and/or from my fellow commissioners. Would anybody be willing to speak? You'll do the pledge. Anyone willing to do the land acknowledgement? I'll take care of the land acknowledgement. Vice Chair, you'll take care of the pledge. Thank you. Please rise for the opening acknowledgements in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Eastern people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, Hadwin and Wintu peoples, and the people of the Wilson Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe, may we acknowledge and honor the native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous peoples, histories, contributions, and lives. Thank you. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And you like your old script, right? Okay, thank you. All righty. Our first business today is the commission staff report. Staff may proceed, unless you want to move this to the end. We approved the agenda already. We should have. Yeah, let's do the staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Jennifer Donlin-Wyatt, Division Manager for Mobility and Sustainability. Glad to give the staff report this evening. A couple of key fun things. Public Works and the Police Department, as well as with our partners Slow Down Sacramento, did an event on Marysville Boulevard earlier this week to kick off school safety, as well as highlight our quicker builds project on Marysville Boulevard, implementing a part of our Marysville Boulevard Vision Zero effort. So we did that on Monday. We have our Spanish language urban biking and scooting class happening on August 27th at La Familia's Maple Center on 37th Avenue. So if you know of anybody or if you want to take the class in Spanish, please sign up. It's our first time doing it ever all in Spanish. We're pretty excited for that. We are hiring for a senior planner to manage our Vision Zero program, as well as to help us run our red light camera program. Applications are open through Friday, so if you know of anybody with planning experience and wants to work on transportation safety at the city, please encourage them to apply. I have two other weird logistic things. September, it looks like we're having challenges to meet a quorum for enough commissioners. So we ask that you endeavor to attend for a couple of reasons. One of the items we're hoping to discuss is the ad hoc committee's recommendations for the annual report. So we would like folks' input on that. And the other item is that we are bringing forward recommendations for a grant. The grant timeline, or grant application, the timeline is tight, and so that it just was released this week. It is due on October 2nd. September meeting is the only meeting for which we can get input from this commission. So we're hoping that we have a quorum. So please endeavor to attend or let us know as soon as possible if you are not attending. And last but not least, you may have noticed that we have a new process for public comment and new agenda. Clerk, is there anything that you wanted to share about that process or anything that think that the members of the public or commissioners should know about?
At this time, we don't have anything to share, but if we do, then we will be sending out emails to all of you guys. Thank you.
That is my report. Thank you.
I just put up a request to speak for myself, but is this one I should ask, or is that later?
Later.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask a quick question of the clerk, just to follow up, and actually follow up on the updates and on what Jennifer just said? With the challenges of reaching a quorum, I know that city council with the proper notice is allowed to place notice in a hotel lobby or other public place and allow people to remotely call in. Does this commission have that same opportunity?
Unfortunately, they don't. The remote participation only applies to council.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do I have any, next up is the approval of the consent calendar. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on the consent calendar?
Thank you, Chair. I have no speaker slips for this item.
Any members of the commission who wish to speak on the consent calendar? All right, can we call a roll?
Move for approval.
Yeah, thank you.
Consent agenda.
Thank you. Second? I'll
Second.
No, tie. Tie goes to the runner. All right, can we call a roll call vote, or should we just do? Okay, yes, sure. Yeah.
All right, so let's do a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any abstain?
Abstain.
All right, thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to proceed with the discussion calendar. First item tonight is the North Natomas Community Trail naming effort. Do we have a staff presentation?
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Virginia Morgan. I'm a transportation planner with the city's Public Works Mobility and Sustainability Division. I'll be introducing one of our partners, Melissa Mang, Executive Director for North Natomas Jibe, to present on this item. And it's my understanding that she has provided a set of handouts for the Commissioners as well as the clerk, so she'll be providing those as well.
Where should I hand these? Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here again. My name is Melissa Mang. I'm the Executive Director of North Natomas Jibe. We're a Natomas community nonprofit with a mission to provide sustainable transportation options to support a thriving community. Over the last few years, Jibe has worked to name several trails in North Natomas, including the Redbud Trail, Fisherman's Lake Parkway, and most recently, the extension of the Jackrabbit Trail. Trail naming has many benefits, including having people being able to recognize the corridor. It enables inclusion of the name on digital and printed maps. It increases awareness for everyday use, which we're really trying to have people switch car trips to bike trips. Strengthens connections to shopping, health services, and dining. And it really reinforces the trail as a safe option for people to use. And it supports future efforts to be able to both mark and do wayfinding on those trails. So giving it a name, reinforcing its place, and making it someplace that people know how to refer to. I'm here today because I'm requesting the Commission's input on our plan to establish a name for an unnamed section of trail that runs east along I-5, currently between Del Paso Road and north of San Juan. You'll see that map in front of you that I just handed out. Some of you may recognize this area because it's the trail that runs behind many of the eateries, the hotels, and the new Costco that was built not too long ago. So as you can see on the map, there are some sections of the trail that have been,
Melissa, you should have slides that you can click through.
oh,
Great,
oh, great,
thank you.
here we go. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So you can see that actually more from the slide or the handout that I gave you, that some of the sections of the trail have been completed, and there's several sections that have been planned for but are not yet completed and will come in with either future development or as the cities or communities are able to build out trail sections to complete the network. Following the Natomas tradition of naming things, including trails, after local flora and fauna, we referenced, a group of us at Jibe started looking at what possible names could be. And so we referenced the Habitat Conservation Plan of the Natomas Basin, and we started cross-referencing names against other landmarks in the areas, schools, parks, and other major landmarks. Many of them have nature-based names. Using that criteria, we came up with a short list of names that I'd like to propose to you tonight for your feedback. So, drum roll, please. The 4 finalists up to this point are Sandhill Crane Parkway, Snowy Egret Parkway, Burrowing Owl Parkway, and Larkspur Parkway. Based on your feedback tonight, so we would like your input, we will continue the process of working with the community to make sure whatever chosen name resonates with people in the community and they like the idea of the chosen name. So far, we have reached out to both council offices, to both the council members and their offices, as well as Commissioner Hodel and Commissioner Gibson for initial feedback, just to kind of test the waters, see what people thought. And so far, the response has been very positive with some comments. And so we would like your feedback, thoughts, questions, things to think about, etc. I'll be noting them down. And then our process from here is we will incorporate your feedback. We will then have a little bit larger stakeholder email feedback time. And those stakeholders will include bicycle and pedestrian user groups, our local Navigate Natomas bike club, naturalists and conservation groups, adjacent property owners, businesses, HOAs, and schools. So we'll reach out to those groups, get their feedback, incorporate other names or other comments that may be provided. From there, we will do a community voting process. So we will have, in fact, you have the QR code on a flyer. This is one of the promotion pieces we have initially created, but we plan on promoting in social media, newsletter, partner outreach, having people place in other newsletters, etc. And so we'll do a concerted effort to get community feedback for a 2-week period in early September. And then based on the results, we will come back to this body to seek your approval for the community chosen name. From there, we will then go to council to seek their final blessing, and then, if all goes well, it shall be named. So with that, I would love any feedback, comments, questions.
Commissioner Howell.
Thank you. Very much appreciate your presentation tonight and the fact that you put so much effort into naming the trails. I very much like Sandhill Crane. I think that honors the efforts of those who are trying to protect the Sandhill Crane, which is threatened under state law. And of course, the Central Valley is so important to the survival of the Sandhill Crane. So I think that would be an apt name for this trail.
Noted.
Commissioner Hodel, sorry.
I missed the 4th one. Sandhill Crane, Burrowing Owl, Snowy Egret.
I'll take it from the top. Sandhill Crane Parkway, Snowy Egret Parkway, Burrowing Owl Parkway, and Larkspur Parkway. Larkspur.
Lark's Sparrow?
Lark.
Not that one, too hard to say. Okay.
I'm stumbling over it.
I like them all. Snowy Egret, we always talked about that bridge being called Snowy Egret Bridge. So I would kind of save that for the bridge and not for the trail that it might intersect with. Burrowing Owl is great. Read the book Hoot. It's a Newbery honor book. It's really cool. It's about burrowing owls. And I like Sandhill Crane too, so. Thank you. I'm glad you're doing this. It makes such a difference when you're out cycling to be able to name a trail rather than say, you know, that one along I-5. So,
Yeah,
thanks.
the freeway trail.
Mr. Banks?
Hi, Melissa. Nice to see you. I have not been on this trail or near this area, but are there any animals that you are naming that do actually habitat nearby? Have habitat nearby?
That is a good question, and I don't know. We can probably work with the Habitat Conservation Group, as well as there's a naturalist group that is very prolific in North Natomas that does a lot of wildlife photography of different places in North Natomas. So I can definitely check in and see if there have been any sightings along that trail, and if there's anything that's not on this list.
Yeah, it would be nice to sync that up, in my opinion. But I'm a snowy egret gal. I like that a lot, and so that would be my vote.
I always heard that about you, Commissioner Banks. Okay. Any other commissioners wish to speak? And there's no speaker slips on this item, I'm assuming?
Thank you, Chair. I have no speaker slips for this item.
Right. Well, this item is receiving comment, so no vote is required. Thank you for the presentation. We look forward to hearing more about your outreach efforts.
Okay, see you later in the fall. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Due to my professional obligations, I'm conflicted on the next item. Vice Chair Gibson will read this item.
While Chair Gonzalez steps out of the room, there's a good excuse to look at birds for our last few minutes. So going to go look at some wildlife, hopefully next weekend or two on Natomas. Item 4 is automated red light camera enforcement program. Staff, is there a presentation?
There is, thank you. Good evening, Commission. Chris Doherty with the Mobility and Sustainability Division of Public Works. And the item in front of you this evening is the city's proposed automated red light camera program. Again, the city is looking to start a new program of automated red light enforcement citywide next year. And we are, this is a Vision Zero program that is really aimed solely at reducing serious collisions at intersections throughout the city. From our Vision Zero work, we have found that 80% of all serious collisions and serious injuries and fatalities happen at the intersection. So we really want to focus this effort on that specifically. And about 30% of those collisions can be attributed directly to red light running. So national research tells us that red light camera programs throughout the country have generally reduced red light crash instances about 21%. And we have a newly enacted Senate Bill 720 that gives us a new flexible way to administer this program that we would like to move through. So Senate Bill 720 really does make some changes on past red light camera programs that have been administered. You might remember a few years ago, the county had run a program, has said stop that program. So this new the Senate Bill 720 can only be administered by public works departments and or transportation departments. It's different than the previously run programs. All locations must be data-driven and based solely on collision history and safety. It makes some changes to the violation process, specifically moving from a moving violation to a civil penalty, similar to a parking ticket. This means it will not go on your record, get a point on your record, and or impact insurance rates. It also changes and frames the violation charges, the fees for the program, excuse me. Starting at $100 for a first instance, and then escalating up to $500 for repeat offenders. And it also establishes a more administrative appeal process instead of going through the courts for this. And this is the part I really want to lean into, is that it really has a very strong emphasis on privacy and civil liberties. Being a camera-based program, it really does define, and this is why it is administered solely by public works departments and transportation departments, that it is administered by them and that data is housed within those departments. So how will the city implement this? How are we proposing? So first, we really are leveraging all of our Vision Zero work that we started in 2018. We're taking 10 years of our collision history and data to identify the locations for the program, and I'll get to those locations in a little bit. And then we are also ensuring that those locations are not overly concentrated in any one area of the community, so they are geographically dispersed across the city. And again, we're kind of focusing and really leaning into the existing city policies that are really designed for camera programs that protect civil liberties and privacy for our residents. We've been using those programs through our parking enforcement for quite some time and have a really good history of that data and how we use it. So I do really want to stress this, though, that these systems, these are citation systems specifically. They take about a 3-second video and a picture, and strictly of the license plate of the vehicle and not of the face of the driver. No facial recognition will be used in this process. So I really want to stress, these are not surveillance cameras. They do use license plate technology, but these are not your mass surveillance cameras that have been, you've probably seen the news lately, have been getting a lot of press. These are very, very different. These are strictly designed around enforcement in a very specific case. So through that process, we took a look at that, again, 10 years of collision data, and then really focused on the collisions that happened within 150 feet of the intersections. And then we also took a look at the collisions in that 150 feet that really resulted from predominant factors from red light running. These are your broadside collisions and things of that nature. So we took that data and then we added a multiplier for serious injuries and also fatalities to really elevate the ones that have had really significant safety issues throughout the city. And we've identified 20 locations to start out with for this program. I do want to stress, this is our starting point. We're not guaranteeing you moving forward that all 20 locations will have cameras. As of right now, we do not know of our cost per intersection for this. We'll be identifying that when we select a vendor. We also don't have a full budget for this project yet. So this is where we're starting for our recommended priorities intersections. So we'd love your feedback on that tonight. And also, we're in the middle of our community engagement phase. I'll be attending several neighborhood association meetings and community events over the next 6 weeks, talking about this program and getting feedback, and really targeting those neighborhoods that are impacted by these cameras in our recommended locations. Also, we have a citywide survey that launched this week that is open citywide. You can access all that information for the survey on our website, which is linked up here, but also on the main Public Works Red Light Camera Vision Zero page. I will say that that survey went live, I believe, yesterday, and we have already 460 comments on the program. So we're getting a lot of good feedback on that already. So as we move forward, we are, again, starting that process to select that vendor through our procurement process. And then we'll be coming back to the City Council to adopt the final kind of impact report that is required by SB 720 to advance this program with an ideally launch in spring of 2027. So with that, again, we're looking for your feedback tonight on the program that we've specified and also the intersections that we've identified as well. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any comments or questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Clerk, are there any public commenters?
Thank you, Vice Chair. We do have speakers for this item. Our first speaker is Dan Allison.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dan Allison, District 4. I support this program. I think that red light running has become epidemic in Sacramento. It is worse than many other places that I go, and it needs to be controlled. And I'm very glad that this program is moving forward. The locations suggested in the presentation, I'm in agreement with all of them. There's only one intersection of all of those that I don't know fairly well. There are many other intersections, including the one right next door to where I live, that deserve red light cameras. But I trust the city's process for identifying the top crash intersections. And I also think that there's a fairly good distribution through the community. I know that with any camera program, there's concerns about, is it focused on low-income communities? And I don't believe that it is. My observation is that most red light runners are driving high-value vehicles. They're not people from low-income communities. So I think it's appropriate that they've been placed where the suggestion is. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Jenny Wardwaller. Oh, doesn't seem like Jenny's in the room with us. And our last speaker is Ansel Lundberg.
Yes, exactly. Good evening. My name is Ansel Lundberg. I live in District 7 in Sacramento in Curtis Park, and I'm here with my son Warren. We rode our bike here, and I'm just here to speak in support of the red light camera program that the city is proposing. I live near one of the intersections that used to be a sheriff-operated red light camera in Sacramento, and I noticed I feel the absence of the cameras there at Broadway and 21st Street. So very supportive of this plan from staff. I would appreciate more cameras along the WX freeway intersections, but I know this is kind of just the beginning of the program. So I really appreciate what staff has done about concerns around civil liberties and privacy. So I think there's a lot of sensitivity around kind of camera use in society right now, which is, very reasonable. Yes, you can. And so I just appreciate that care that has been taken. So, Warren, did you want to say anything else? I have another minute. Okay. So thank you so much to staff for putting this together, and just appreciate the consideration. Thank you. Oh, with my remaining time, I'm with a new group called Parents with Kids on Bikes, and we submitted a Vision Zero comment letter recently, so appreciate you considering that too. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for your comment. So we do have Ginny in the room with us. Ginny, can you come up to the podium?
For fitting me back in. I got confused by the online platform, and I thought I could comment online. Then I realized, oh no, I have to be here. So I rushed down here, and sorry that I missed my moment. Anyway, I am here to strongly support the red light cameras. I bike everywhere in the city, and I see red light running. It is a massive problem in our city, and it is terrifying. I have to ride very defensively. I tend to wait a second and let the people run the light before I go into the intersection. So I think this program is really important, and I have also lived in cities that have red light cameras like Washington, D.C., and they are effective. They work really well. So I think this is critically important. The thing that I wanted to flag for you all in the staff report that I found very concerning was the flag about we don't have the money to implement this. And you all know that with lots of our safety and active transportation improvements, our city is not well funded to actually implement that stuff. So I looked at all the locations. I'm like, yes, so excited to see these cameras in place. And then I read that line and I was like, damn it. So we need to advocate to the council. I also worked I was very involved in the Measure campaign, which is not moving forward because we didn't get enough signatures. So we are just really in a bind here in our city to fund the kinds of things that are going to make our streets safer. So I hope you all will focus on that in your discussion, and we definitely need to advocate to the council, and we need to just to continue to push in our community for these kinds of things that are going to make our streets safer. So appreciate the work that Chris is doing. I don't think we necessarily need more engagement on this. I think these work. We need to put them out there, and we need to see the safety improvements on our streets as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Vice Chair, I have no more speakers on this item.
All right, thank you to the public commenters. Are there any commissioners who wish to speak on this item? Commissioner Rubenstein?
There we go. It was glitching for a moment. Hi, thank you for the presentation. Just one quick question. It might have been somewhere in your presentation. I might have missed it. Assuming there's funding, you said that there would be a launch date somewhere in spring of next year. How long would this pilot program last? Is that dependent on funding?
So it's not technically a pilot program, it's more just a pilot.
Okay.
The goal here is to, and a lot of these details will come out when we have identified an equipment vendor and we understand kind of what we're looking at and how we procure this equipment. Is it a lease? Is it a purchase? Is it that? So we have funding for this program to begin. But again, we don't have a per intersection cost and or defined budget yet, just to be very, very clear. So we'll be making those decisions when we have some of those questions answered at this point.
Okay, I was just wondering because usually when you're starting a new program, you want to make sure that you have performance metrics, and that way you can maybe present those to the council later and get more funding and expand. So that's why I was asking while I had the assumption that it was a pilot program to start off with.
So SB 720 has a reporting structure built into it annually. So we will be doing a lot of annual reporting and analysis about impacts and how much benefit it is driving. The one thing I think I did not mention in the presentation, I did have it in my notes, but was that any revenues and any funding that comes out of this program that is generated, we're not 100% sure it will generate revenue, but if it does, it has to be spent either directly supporting the program and growing the program, and anything beyond that can only be spent on improving road safety. So it'll go back into the Vision Zero fund, which we've already established. Then we'll go to work doing other safety improvements around the city.
Yes, and thank you for making that point. I think this program and the bill is really well authored, and I think it does work based on previous research. I want to commend you for the selection of the locations. I think the methodology was good. I actually went on the city's Vision Zero dashboard and did some playing around with the crash locations. I also like that we are keeping an equity lens on this. I noticed that about half of the selected locations are in SB 535 disadvantaged communities and the other half are not. So I think that is good, especially given the comment, and I think we have some anecdotal and maybe objective evidence that there is more red light running, speeding, and aggressive driving in disadvantaged communities because people might think that there is no enforcement in those areas, but we need to double down on some of that to protect some of our disadvantaged residents. I do like also that in the proposal there are strict data safeguards. So thank you for emphasizing that these are not flock cameras. That there will be limited retention, no secondary use, no resale, no broader vehicle tracking. It's all limited. Also, there will be a payment plan option or I think fee reduction options for low-income residents that are cited. I think that is also an excellent part of the program. And as you pointed out, this will not be a criminal offense. This is administrative, so it doesn't go through the courts, not through the police department. It goes through the Public Works Department. So in conclusion, I think this is a really good proposal and I fully support it. Thank you.
I would add on the administrative processing of this, we are envisioning this being processed by our existing parking enforcement officers that are already doing very similar work in this regard. So that structure is really already constructed, so we should be a relatively easy implementation of this.
Commissioner Harris?
This is really exciting. I think that there's a lot of demand, and it's a complicated issue. I would like to see as part of the policy how we're going to use this data to inform these intersections that don't have other traffic calming, such as just painting the crosswalks. I know my intersection that I got crosswalks painted, repainted with the full grid, and it made a huge difference. I would say it's hard to know what you don't see happen, but it feels like it's a rarity to see someone blow through instead of a common occurrence to see someone blow through those intersections. But also speed, right? And the ways we do traffic calming with bike lanes, bump outs, and all of that. I know we don't have all the money. This is a program. It's not all the same thing, but I would like to see this program talk about how the data that is collected, the frequency of those running informs those overbuilt or oversized or under resourced intersections and that there's a feedback loop there. Thank you.
Commissioner Banks?
Yeah, great presentation. Thank you, Chris. As someone who's pretty close to this bill, I just have a question about the engagement aspect of it. There are other bills that go through state law and they don't require engagement. That seems to be something that you've added on, the city has added on in this, like daylighting. We don't have engagement around daylighting that I know of, or that I remember us talking about. So I'm curious about why you added the engagement aspect into this.
So SB 720 has a requirement to adopt what they call an impact report. And it has pretty stringent requirements around engaging the communities that these cameras will go into. So it is a requirement of the legislation. So that's why we're doing a fairly robust engagement effort to go directly to these neighborhood associations and community areas that are looking at getting these cameras. It very closely mirrors the speed camera bill, AB 645.
Yep.
Thank you. Very similar language and similar structure in the civil penalty versus the penalty structures. There's a lot of similarities, a lot of mirroring there. So, and they also have, in that program as well, is a fairly robust engagement effort that is required.
So just a quick follow-up. There's a lot of engagement that's been going on around the city, around safety and safety corridors and the high injury network. Are there not information that you can already draw on from recent engagement so you don't have to do a whole new round of engagement? Don't get me wrong, I think engagement is good, but engagement gets fatiguing for our community members. If we've already gone to them and talked to them about bad intersections and they identify a really bad intersection, then we know that this might be a great intersection for implementing this policy.
Yeah, that's a good point. We took the strategy of attending neighborhood association meetings and some community events to not have like big, large dedicated meetings around the city on just this one topic.
Right.
So that we are not really doing that. And there is a lot of engagement fatigue. It is a known thing if you over concentrate in one area. So we did really strategize to kind of tag on to other meetings and other events so that we can inform and get feedback without creating that fatigue. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Dow?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Dougherty, for the presentation. I was just curious, in terms of the feedback, are you able to share how the feedback has been from the community so far?
So far, the survey's been out for about 48 hours, so we haven't had a chance to go through it yet, but I'm happy to share that feedback as we come through with the impact report. Will be a component of that impact report as we take it forward, I believe, through this commission and on to council.
Any other commissioners? If not, I just want to thank you for bringing this item. I'm personally incredibly supportive of seeing this type of red light program implemented. When the county took down the program, I was very disappointed. I know they approached it as a revenue generating option. That was one of their major considerations, less so much from safety. So seeing that this is our top 20 corridor or intersections, safety perspective is really appreciated. One question I have is efficacy of red light cameras. I know there's information out there. Do you have any literature or peer cities that when they implement red light cameras, how many collisions are reduced at those intersections?
So I referenced a national study in the presentation that said there's about a 21% decrease in red light running collisions after camera programs are introduced in those. But I'm happy to look up and find additional ones. SB 720 is a relatively newly adopted process in very few cities. I think only one city in California has actually moved very, very quickly to do this. So we don't have one specifically for this program as of yet. But we have, there is some national work on red light cameras, and I'm sure we can pull something together.
Yeah, I'm sure 21% reduction in collisions is very important and would quite literally save lives at these intersections, especially since you've done, you all and the rest of the city have done very hard work identifying the top intersections. Hopefully the council will recognize that a 20% reduction on the program will hopefully be self-sustaining, cross our fingers. Well, I don't know if I want to be self-sustaining because it means more people are running red lights, but if it happens to be, that would be nice. I think I see Commissioner Banks wishes to speak again.
I do. I have a follow-up question, not about engagement. I'm curious about the vendors. You know, there are a lot of speed light cameras, but they are frontal focused so that they do take facial recognition. There are probably fewer vendors that actually do license plate. Is that true? Am I off on that? And if so, if that pool is, have you already started an RFP process? Like, how far are you along in that aspect of this work?
So we're drafting that RFP process right now, and it has to fit this has to fit in between both of our signal infrastructure and our citation infrastructure and the parking. So there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen on that scope of work for that. But I will say there's most of the vendors that are in this space that we have talked to do have this capability and are set up for this already. For them, it's actually simpler to not have a camera both at the rear of the car taking picture of the license plate and the front to identify the driver. This is a simpler process and probably just a multi-camera component that sits in each direction and ties into the intersection and knows when the light turned red.
If it's easier, does that make it less expensive?
One hopes, but we'll let you know on that.
All right, thanks.
So far, the number we saw out of one of the communities was about $20,000 per intersection. We don't know what structure, if that was a purchase or a lease or what that looks like. So that's the first number in the back of the napkin that we've kind of written down to just lock in on that.
All right, seeing no other commissioners wish to speak, thank you very much, Chris, for presenting here. That concludes the item. Oh, this item is receiving comments, so no vote is required. So we can move on to the next item.
We're just going to wait for Chair Gonzalez to come back. He should be back shortly. There he comes.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for running that portion of the meeting. Next up is item 5, the 2026 Bicycle Parking Program Update. Is there a staff presentation?
There is. Great. Good evening, Commissioners. Again, I'm Virginia Morgan. I'm a planner with the Mobility and Sustainability Division, and tonight I'll be giving an update on the bike parking program. Today's presentation includes an overview, updates on some of our current initiatives, as well as public resources related to the program. The purpose of the bike parking program is to install new bike parking based on need throughout the city. This helps support bicycling as a viable mode of transportation and helps the city advance the city's mobility, safety, and climate goals. New locations for bike parking are identified through 2 ways. One method is through public requests via our online form. Our team reviews these requests based on demonstrated demand and site placement requirements. The second method is through staff-identified locations, including specific initiatives to address areas with site constraints, which might preclude typical bike parking. The city's preferred alternative is the inverted U-rack, shown here, as it's one of the most user-friendly, adaptable, and durable designs. Bike parking is typically installed on a raised concrete sidewalk in the public right-of-way. New bike parking must adhere to the city's bike parking design and placement standards, which includes a minimum width between racks, curbs, and walls, and must maintain a minimum 6-foot path of travel. Many locations may have a need for bike parking, but do not fit into the criteria described. Staff has developed a variety of initiatives to address these situations. Firstly, some public requests for bike parking may come from businesses with a limited or narrow sidewalk. In these cases, an on-street bike corral may be installed either in a no parking zone or by replacing a vehicle parking space. A second initiative is for private property installations, where the city may install bike parking directly onto the property for eligible neighborhood-serving destinations. A third initiative is an extension of the general bike parking program to expand options for long-term secure bike parking in the city. The private property pilot was first launched in 2023 to help address the lack of bike parking outside of the central city. These installations are intended for neighborhood-serving destinations, which have a limited public right-of-way. Specifically, sites must be located in either opportunity areas, as identified through Sacramento's Shared Rideable program, or in a disadvantaged community, as designated pursuant to Senate Bill 535, based on environmental, health, and socioeconomic indicators. Bike parking in opportunity areas goes hand in hand with other current initiatives, such as the Franklin Complete Streets project. New bike lanes mean that more people may be traveling by bike or scooter, and the city wants to ensure that there are sufficient bike parking options along these corridors. The city has received relatively few requests for private installations, with many businesses sharing concerns around maintenance, misuse, or perceived liability risks. As a part of this effort, staff is developing digital and physical outreach materials to highlight the benefits of bike parking. We plan to distribute these materials online and in person to eligible businesses and to engage with business improvement districts whenever possible. Tonight, we are seeking the Commission's feedback on this proposed strategy for connecting with eligible property owners regarding this program. The secure bike parking pilot was first brought to the Commission in March of 2025 to address concerns around bike theft in public destinations where users are parking for 2 or more hours. Since then, the city has contracted with E-Lock Technologies for the future installation of 5 secure bike mini stations, which have capacity for 6 bikes each, are secured by a roll-top cage, and accessible by the Bike Link mobile app. Staff is beginning conversations with our community partners to determine the 5 pilot locations by fall of this year, and installation of the stations is expected by spring of 2027. Today, we are requesting the Commission's recommendations for locations which fit the criteria for secure bike parking. Sites must be publicly accessible, have a demonstrated need, and have a flat 10 by 12 foot area for installation. To close, I'd like to share some public resources related to bike parking. Businesses and community members can always request bike parking at our website at sacramentobikes.org, where we will evaluate the request and determine if the location is eligible, either in the public right-of-way or potentially as a private install. Also available on our webpage are the bike parking standards, a map of all existing bike parking in the city, and a link to submit a 311 maintenance request for any damaged or missing racks, blocked bikeways, or other city maintenance issues. Finally, with the outstanding support of our Civic Spark Fellow, Yadira Galindo, we will continue developing outreach materials in both English and Spanish, including updates to our bike parking webpage, social media, and a brochure highlighting the benefits of bike parking for property owners, businesses, and the surrounding community. That concludes the presentation. As a reminder, we're asking the Commission for input on our strategy for private bike parking installations, as well as potential locations for our secure bike parking pilot. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Commission for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wants to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I have one speaker for this item. Dan Allison.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Dan Allison, District 4. Overall, the presentation and the proposal seems good to me. The secure bike parking did raise an issue in my mind. There is a great demand for bike racks and secure bike parking at SAC-RT light rail stations. The bikes on light rail, particularly the new cars that have limited space, is a major problem. And it's not a problem the city should be solving. It's a problem SAC-RT should be solving, and they've been told that for years. So I'm not here to suggest that city needs to solve it, but perhaps the city could encourage SAC-RT to take proactive action to provide sufficient bike parking at stations, both short-term and long-term, so that there are fewer bikes on the light rail cars, less crowding. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Chair, I have no more speakers on this item.
Thank you. Any commissioners want to speak on this item? Commissioner Moore.
Thank you. And for the commercial side of things, I imagine you all have reached out to like P-bids and things like that. That feels like the only strategy I can think of to try to get there. What is their feedback from?
Yes, so the first strategy was more targeted at reaching out to businesses directly, and we definitely heard from a lot of those businesses, as I mentioned, that they had some concerns around potential misuse, and that they were maybe more interested if the P-bid was behind them. So in some specific instances, they said, go to the P-bid first, and that kind of would push the program forward. If others on the corridor were interested in the program, they wouldn't be the only one saying yes to something like this. So yes, definitely working with P-bids.
Okay. Have you met with them? And how is that going?
Yeah, we have started the conversation.
Okay.
That's step one. They know that we're interested, at least in the case of the Franklin Boulevard Business District. That's kind of our first touch point so far.
I blame Jeff, not you. Thank you. I'm sure he's not here. He's not here, and that's not my fault. Thank you. Yeah, the note around, I guess the other one, yeah, light rails seem like the main objective. I'm curious if any of the racks allow or have options for fitting cargo bikes. I mean, the times that I have taken light rail with my kids, I'll put them on my bike, we'll get there, I'll leave it over somewhere. Well, like Chocolate Fish is usually kind of the location where it's popular enough, excuse me. But yeah, at other locations, it would be really difficult. The rack that you showed me looked pretty, like it spit a very specific bike. And so I'm curious if there are options for cargo bikes, especially since they can't fit on the train. Even if I wanted to, it would be challenging. So just thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know specifically if the mini stations that we've selected fit a cargo bike. I know it fits 6 standard bikes, but I can definitely look into that.
I hope to see success. It would be great. Thank you. Oh, daylighting, how hard are we pushing daylighting and the use of that space outside of downtown? I know I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Moore, the city is open to installing bike racks in daylighted areas. However, any bike parking that is not on a sidewalk requires a sponsor to be able to sweep and maintain, because we just don't have the resources to do that. We struggle to find sponsors just in general for any on-street parking, and are losing sponsors. So if a business came to us and they said that they wanted some on-street bike parking in a daylighted area, we are open to that concept, assuming the intersection can accommodate it, right? As long as there is a sponsor.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Banks?
You have a bad cold. Sorry. I have a couple questions. It stems from having spent time in Europe this spring and observing a lot of really big bike parking areas, like a full garage given over to bike parking. I'm curious, now that we have returned to work, how busy are our garages in town? Are they full? Because if they're not, could we not build some bike parking or a bike space in there that would be nice and safe for people that is not on a sidewalk? I start to worry about how bike parking gets to be clutter on sidewalks, especially with people with disabilities, because they can be, to some extent, impeding people's movement on sidewalks. And I think the daylighting piece is great, and we have, issues there with, keeping them swept, et cetera. So I'm curious about whether or not we could put any of that into some of the current garages that we already have, which are already set aside for parking. Let's add bikes to the already, garages filled with vehicles. That's part one. And the second part is, given that we don't have bike share these days, and that might change again, which would be fingers crossed, but we do have a lot of bike parking that was created for bike share that is not always perfect for cargo bikes and people's current bikes. Could that not be retrofitted so we could still use it? Or do we have any idea about how much that's also getting used as existing bike parking, even though we don't have bike share? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So to your first point, some feedback that we've gotten from the vendor, they're actually the same vendor for the current e-lockers that we have in the city throughout a couple of the garages, Sac Valley Station, and the K Street Tunnel. And one of the major takeaways from those lockers and either lack of use or actually misuse is that they really wanted to emphasize a more visible location. When bike parking stations are tucked away a little more, they tend to encourage a little more misuse, a little less visibility. So I think in this particular case, in pilot program, we are aiming more to make it a feature, hopefully potentially something beautiful on the sidewalk. But I do hear your point about clutter on the sidewalk, and definitely maintaining that accessibility is a concern, is something we're thinking about. To this secondary question, I personally don't know that much about the history of those racks or what retrofitting would really look like. I don't know if Jennifer might be able to speak more to that.
I am glad to. I have been working on the regional bike share bike parking program since 2016. So the racks are now owned by the city as about a year ago. Up until then, they were owned by SACOG. We have inventoried Jeff, former team member, inventoried all of them. We identified which ones were on street that we had a sponsor for, because previously the bike share provider, the vendor, which was Jump, then became Lime, they maintained them. So we identified ones after that the grant or the contract ended with SACOG. Did we have anybody to maintain them? Where we did not have, where it wasn't easy, we knocked on doors and say, hey, businesses, would you take over sweeping responsibility? Some stayed, some had to be removed because we didn't have a sponsor. Then there are the racks that are on sidewalk. We have kept nearly all of them as a cost-effective manner just to maintain more bike parking. If there are any specific, because they generally work. If you think about it, like you sit there and you look at it for a second, I'm only able to lock all of my bikes to all of the different types of bike racks that were through the bike share system. They might not always be space appropriate for a longer cargo bike. And sometimes the wider ones you have to get on the edge, but it still is a cost-effective way. Rather than spending $3,000 to take out and put back in, we just keep the bike parking there and spend that $3,000 that we would have spent at another location that does not currently have bike parking. So we've gone through and inventoried and completed that. I want to say it's June or July this year, we finished that transition.
Yeah, when I was thinking about retrofitting, I was thinking more along the lines of leaving the structure as it is, and maybe those holes, which aren't all that wide, they kind of have kind of a T effect with a big circle on them, maybe figuring out a way to either drill some new holes in them so other cables can get through, or something. It wasn't taking them out wholesale and putting them in. It was retrofitting the current configuration of the parking thing, whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about.
Unless any other commissioners wish to speak, first to clarify for the record, I have a sinus infection, not a cold, not contagious. And thank you to our clerk tonight, who got me some cough drops just now, after you pointed it out, Commissioner Banks. Two statements, I guess. Responding to your comment about our bike racks looking nice, we have ugly car parking lots all over the city. We have city-owned lots. I'd love to see a city-owned lot turn into a very ugly bicycle parking lot. Put them everywhere. I don't care how they look. So it's not a standard we hold to car parking lots. We should hold it to bikes. And number two, to reiterate and reinforce what Commissioner Moore was saying, I'd love to see bike racks used as hardening for our daylighting efforts. Is the requirement for a sponsorship limited to only businesses, or can individuals be our sponsors?
I don't know as much about individuals, but definitely community groups we've floated doesn't necessarily have to be a commercial business.
Because I recall when, how did he call himself a humble servant, humble public servant, Jeff Jesma, who we all miss, before this podium. He ran a program in Tahoe Park. We had the first, I believe, privately owned city bicycle rack installed in front of Sac City Brews in Tahoe Park. And also, there's a few in the neighborhood. There's a few in the neighborhood. One is few.
It was a limited term pilot.
And how'd that go?
It was a limited term pilot in a neighborhood in a residential
Yeah.
area. It is not something that we are currently pursuing at this time.
Okay. So we could or could not do daylighting with a resident? Hard need.
At this time, we are not installing on-street bike parking in front of single-family homes.
What about multifamily homes?
We are all the time. We do that all the time on the grid.
Okay, so,
In apartment complexes, absolutely.
all right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
And not seeing any more, I think we're going to move on to the next item. Item 6 is the commission long discussion. Is there a staff presentation?
There is. I'm on my way.
All righty.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jennifer Donlin-Wyant, Division Manager for Mobility and Sustainability, and I will be texting Jeff this evening, letting him know he was the highlight of our commission meeting this evening. These are recorded and broadcast, so Jeff is going to, I'm sure, come back and watch this to enjoy that he lives on. I'm sure that in Emeryville, he has his own commission that he gets to work with. I'm here today to talk about the commission's log. I would like to, one, clarify that all items on the log are items that you still wish to hear. And there are a number of items on the log that I need clarification on before we can agendize and move these forward. I also understand there's an item or two that maybe didn't make it to the log that I'd like the commissioner to just share tonight so we can formally get it onto the log. This is pretty brief. What I'd like to do is go through each of the items in the log, get confirmation. It's not a vote or action item, but just general consensus that this is something that you want to hear. Where I have specific questions, I'm going to ask to dial down a little bit into the specifics so I know who to ask to join the party with us here at Commission. The first item on here is annual update on the Vision Zero Action Plan and related efforts. Commissioner Harris had requested this. We are updating the Vision Zero Action Plan. As you know, we've come to you recently on that. I'm happy to say that it's part of our, well, part of our challenge in reporting annually is the staff capacity. As part of our recruitment for our senior planner, that senior planner will hold the Vision Zero program and have the ability to coordinate and report annually on our Vision Zero efforts. So that is moving, and I'm hoping that in the next 12 months, we'll be able to have this as part of our annual program. Any questions on that? I'm going to pause for each one, I think, just to get a quick look to see. Okay, great. The next item is the annual update on complete streets. The complete streets policy did require annual reporting on our complete streets policies. We have some internal challenges to overcome when we created that policy. We didn't necessarily understand the complexities of development in our city. So part of the challenge is the majority of things that are complete streetsy are not actually administered and implemented by the city, but implemented through private development, for which our teams don't have a lot of touches with. So it might be a development project that comes in Natomas that puts in traffic calming, speed limits, roundabouts, or something like that. We don't directly have, our teams don't have engagement with that. Or it might be a development project that's, say, on the grid on 16th. We've had a lot of multifamily housing going on 16th. Again, our teams aren't directly involved in that. We are more involved with projects that the city sponsors and moves forward. So it's still something that we're working to overcome, but I understand it is a policy and it is expected of us, and I'm hoping in the next year as we bring on more staff that we can figure out how to address those issues. The next one, they're actually Commissioner Wadhwani and Commissioner Banks, and these I would like to dig down a little bit deeper into it. I know Commissioner Wadhwani is not here this evening, but I'm hoping to get clarification. The first one is enforcement of obstructions on sidewalks. What I need to know is what sort of obstructions, because there could be an obstruction such as a parked car. Our parking division in Public Works would manage that. If it's an obstruction related to an alfresco structure, that's a different team, that's development engineering in Public Works. If it's an obstruction of some other, I'm not sure what, an A-frame or some other infrastructure that's built in that's not al fresco, that would be code enforcement. So there are a couple of different things. So I think for my understanding of how to move this forward and have a discussion with the commission is what is the most key pertinent issue of obstructions on the sidewalks that you'd like to hear about our process, and then I can work with that team to bring them here to have that discussion. I'm gonna pause on that and see if you don't mind, Chair, if I ask if any commissioners have any specific thoughts on that topic.
Any commissioners want to share? Commissioner Moore?
I believe that this was specific to just the amount of like bicycle and e-micromobility and shared mobility that was getting in the way along sidewalks. Please don't trust my memory on anything, but I believe that was generally the topic. I think it is certainly a pertinent one to understand how that's being addressed. I believe that's what we were referring to.
So the shared bikes and scooters.
Shared bikes and scooters, general, active transportation mobility devices that frequently block sidewalks. Beautiful, useful litter.
Okay. So great. That I know can be managed through our team, our parking enforcement team.
Wonderful.
Great. Did anybody else have a comment on that item?
Did other commissioners wish to speak?
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, the next one is enforcement of obstructions in bike lanes, brought to you by Commissioner Banks. Again, bike lane obstructions, different types, different sources of the city to address that. Is there a specific type of bikeway obstruction that you'd like us to look at?
Yeah, there are a few. One is citizens with their trash cans in the bike lane that just don't know, and that might be a simple postcard type of information campaign. The other are, of course, delivery trucks and Ubers, et cetera, that have a really hard time not parking in bike lanes to do their short, whatever it is that they're doing.
So Commissioner Banks, for trash cans in bike lanes, are you speaking to streets that have no on-street parking, or it doesn't matter? It could be something like T Street that has on-street parking and a bike lane, and folks are putting their bins in the bike lane?
It doesn't
Okay.
seem to matter.
Okay.
I've experienced both and both.
Okay, so that would be our recycling and solid waste team, I believe, or their code enforcement officers. I'll check with them on that. And then for vehicles that are in the bikeway, that would be our parking enforcement team and our new AI technology that we're rolling out. So great, I know where to move on that one, so we can move forward and start working to agendize that.
Right.
Are there any thoughts or questions on that one before moving on to the next? Great. This again, the next one is from Commissioner Wadhwani, and I'm hoping maybe some of the commissioners can help address this question. It's the 311 process for issues pertaining to people walking, biking, and rolling. And this goes a little bit deeper of how 311 currently gathers information about obstructions, and then what do we do to address the issue? Is there any reporting done to highlight the number of 311 submittals and actions taken? And any future updates to the 311? So I want to be clear that the 311 team just collects the data, and then it's incumbent on folks to pull the data and do something with the data. We don't holistically look at, I don't think my team, which is the active transportation team, would be the one to do this, and we don't currently do this. So it sounds like the Commissioner Wadhwani would like more information on how we manage it, less so about 311. I could also potentially follow up with her directly, but if any commissioners have questions about 311 data collection and then actions taken after, like as an analysis afterwards, we can talk about that. Specifics are then, if I call into 311 and say that there is somebody blocking a sidewalk at 28th and W, that is immediately addressed through our teams, but a holistic evaluation is not something that our teams do. Any questions or comments on this one? Okay, great. I will follow up with Commissioner Wadhwani. And then the next one are items on the log that are project related, and I'd like to follow up on those. So the first one was brought to us by Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Moore, you asked about a presentation on our signal policies. I will share with you, just as an update, our traffic engineering team are working on updating our traffic signal operations manual. And they have committed to us that they will come before the commission when it is in a state ready to present those new policies. And that should be in the relative near term. I want to say the next 6 to 8 months. So we'll be working on that one. And then Commissioner Harris, you asked for background on the Roseville shelter. And we had a number of email conversations about this, and the Department of Community Response responded to you, and they're unable to present a commission. And you had asked that we still keep this on the log, even if they were unable to present a commission. So I wanted to understand if you still wanted to keep it on the log.
I would like it to be noted that apparently we didn't do enough to be able to show that we have anything we can show for it. That's the point. The point is we approved something that ended up killing somebody, and the city can't prove otherwise. I get it, but I want everyone to know that that's what we did. And we did put in our HEC report that we recommended in the last year that they include a analysis and a estimated cost to provide safe access. But I want the city to hear that you didn't do enough to feel comfortable performing and saying anything about it. And somebody died. She died. I think her name was Wendy. She died because she didn't have a safe way to go to the doctor on bike on Roseville Road. So fine, pull it off. She's still dead.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. So with that, that is my overview for feedback. I'm sure that the commissioners have other things they'd like to share, and there may be members of the public who have something to say. So, Chair?
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item?
Thank you, Chair. I have no speakers for this item.
Any other commissioners, any final thoughts on this item right now? Commissioner Hodo?
Thank you. A little less than a year ago, I, at a meeting, shared two items that I would like on the log. They haven't made it there yet. So it was first submitted to Jeff, and then I followed up one more time, and it still hasn't made it there. So, and the items have been submitted. I mean, my written out stuff, but I'm going to repeat it. So one is to revisit the Marysville Boulevard project because there are lots of wonderful improvements going on there for everyone, but the most or the number one priority when we do street improvements, which is pedestrians. So while the intersections have been improved, the sidewalks along the way in between intersections have not been improved, which makes those vulnerable users still vulnerable. So my question is, how is that going to be addressed? How are we going to make this project equitable and safe for pedestrians? The second one was about the enforcement of the daylighting law. I'm just curious what the city has planned in order to get those curbs painted. I see a lot of the intersections have been repainted with beautiful bright yellow paint, but then the nearby curbs could have been added in there to be red. So I just want to know what the strategy is to enforce the daylighting law. So those are my two things that I would like added, if everyone agrees.
Commissioner Hodel, if I just might note that item 2 about the daylighting, we will absolutely put that on the log. The first item for Marysville Boulevard, what you see on the street right now is the quick build project. We fully intend to bring up the roadway to ADA compliance when we get the grants. We just had about $1.4 million to repave it and put it back a little bit differently. But there is every intention to ensure that that project meets state and federal regulations around accessibility, including the curb ramps.
But that wasn't in the presentation that was made to the ATC. There were no plans to improve the sidewalks in what was presented to us.
I think what was presented to you is the quicker build and not the full project. That full project hasn't really initiated because we're still working on accumulating that funding.
Okay.
But the project that was approved 2020, 2021, we are still working on, still trying to get the funding for. I believe we have anywhere between $8 and $12 million. I don't work on that end of the spectrum of our work, but it's around that much. And we're trying to close a smallish funding gap.
So it isn't part of the quick build, which we saw, but it's
Correct.
coming.
Yes, absolutely. Marysville is not done. This is just this is a test. This is a pilot. It's a little taster and appetizer for what Marysville Boulevard will be as soon as we accumulate the funding, which we're actively working on.
Then I would withdraw that.
Okay, great. Then we'll move forward on the daylighting.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Great, you're welcome.
Thank you for the questions, Commissioner Odell. Any others? All right. Thank you. This item is receiving comments, so no votes required. The next item is the member comment ideas. Questions and meeting conference report. I'm going to go first, actually, just really quickly to say that I am going to be joining the ad hoc committee for the annual report. Any other commissioners who wish to speak on member comments and ideas? Vice Chair Gibson, please.
Yeah, just first about the annual report. Commissioner Harris, Banks, and myself are unable to make the September meeting at this time. We did not plan on this to make it difficult, but sometimes life and work intervenes. So with the addition of Chair Gonzalez, there will hopefully still be a presentation on schedule, meeting quorum come in September. I don't want to go into the full report right now, but the philosophy is to work with the limited funding and really focus on what we feel is the highest priorities of the Vision Zero implementation and modifications to ongoing city plans and programs, with the assumption there will not be a large sum of funds that will be redirected from somewhere else. And also a small section about e-bikes and emos, because there's been specific concerns from elected officials, not just here in Sacramento, but all over the region. So if you have thoughts around those, please bring them. And looking forward to staff helping us prepare the report in the coming days. Since our last meeting, there has been at least 5 fatalities of people on foot. All were listed as pedestrians since our last meeting. On June 19th, on Folsom Boulevard and Bradshaw, near the intersection of Folsom Boulevard and Bradshaw Road, a 60-year-old man was struck and killed. On Power Inn Road near Florin, on the next day, the 20th of June, a 58-year-old man was struck and killed. 3 days later, on June 23rd, on Ramona Avenue in South Sac, a pedestrian, a 46-year-old man was struck and killed. A worker on Highway 50 in the Fix 50 project was struck and killed at the middle of the night near the Stockton Boulevard exit on Highway 50. He was working on that project. And then also on Highway 50, there was listed as a pedestrian struck and killed on August 16th. So as we outlined in what we're doing for our draft report, is very much focused around the Vision Zero implementation. Let's see as many fixes and improvements we can get right around those intersections, like the presentation earlier today, and also on the corridors, and just really be singularly focused on these. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other commissioners wish to speak? I just want to commend Vice Chair for always bringing these to our attention, and hopefully we're addressing that. I do know that based on current trends, we will exceed last year's number of 32 roadway deaths in Sacramento for the calendar year of 2026. We'll exceed 2025's numbers if the trend holds, which is unfortunate because obviously we can't get them back. As Commissioner Harris said, they're gone. When he dies, they're gone. So thank you for that. Next up is public comments. Matters not on the agenda. for any speaker slips?
Thank you, Chair. I have one speaker, Dan Ellison.
Right.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dan Allison, District 4. I have noticed a large number of places around Central City, and I don't know if it's occurring elsewhere, that curb extensions have been put in. They're, quote, temporary curb extensions, though, of course, given the cost of concrete, most of them will remain that way forever. And I'm glad to see that happening. I think they make a big difference. They slow down turning drivers. They slow down all drivers. And they shorten crossing distances. So I'm very glad to see that happening. But I think an opportunity is being missed here. About half of them are not extended into the daylighting area. And when you're going out and doing that kind of work, there isn't any reason that it should not be extended to make daylighting there. I realize there are other options, signing and red curbs, but we're out there putting in posts, which I'm glad to see, vertical delineators. I would like them to be extended to meet the daylighting requirements so that we don't have to go back and paint red curbs and put in signing. I think an opportunity is being missed, and I would like to see the city change its installation of curb extensions so that it does include daylighting. To you.
Thank you for your comment. Chair, I have no more speakers for this item.
Yes, thank you. And I understand, unfortunately, due to a typo in the script, we have to go back to item 6, and we do have to vote on this item, correct? All right. So the vote would be, are we looking for a motion to accept the log as we discussed, or?
Yes, so it would be to accept the law with clarifications, to remove the item about Roseville Road, and to add the item about, daylighting.
Well, I'm Ron Burgundy. I'll read whatever's on the script, so, you know. All right, is there a motion to?
I so move.
I second.
All right. We just do a vocal vote, is that okay? Yeah, a vocal vote. All commissioners who are in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those who abstain? All right, motion carries. Thank you. And with that, I believe we are now adjourned until September 17th. Thank you.